In business, we're taught to win, to beat the competition, to outperform, outsmart, and outpace everyone around us. But what if that mindset is flawed? What if seeing your competitors as enemies is actually holding you back? There's a better way, a more human way to view competition, and it starts with purpose. In this sermon, we'll explore how rethinking the role of your competitors can unlock growth, innovation, and leadership that inspires. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. We've been conditioned to think that success in business means someone else has to lose, that our competitors are obstacles, threats, adversaries standing in the way of our growth. But that view is not only short-sighted, it's toxic to long-term progress. The truth is, your competitors aren't your enemies. In fact, they might be the greatest asset to your growth if you choose to see them that way. When we frame business like war, we create a culture of fear, scarcity, and defensiveness. But business isn't war. It's not a battlefield where survival is the prize. It's a platform for impact, connection, and transformation. And in that space, competition has a different role. Your competitor is they reflect back to you your strengths, your blind spots, your potential. They challenge your assumptions, push you to grow, and reveal the areas where you've settled for good enough. When you see them not as threats, but as sources of insight, you evolve, you improve, you innovate. Because suddenly, the goal isn't to beat them. It's to become better than the version of yourself that's standing still. Think about it. If there were no competitors, would you push as hard? Would you question your systems, your product, your leadership? Would you refine your messaging or sharpen your customer experience? Probably not. Competitors ignite urgency. They fuel creativity. They bring energy to the game, not because you're trying to crush them, but because they force you to rise. And rising is what growth-minded leaders do. When you obsess over destroying the competition, your focus narrows. You stop looking at your customers. You stop listening to your team. You get distracted by one-upping instead of uplifting. You build strategies based on fear instead of vision. But when you respect your competitors, even admire them, you start to understand what excellence looks like in your industry. You learn what works, what resonates, what's possible, and then you build something better. Not because you're trying to win, but because you believe there's always more to give. This shift in mindset does something else too. It humanizes the people across the table. Your competitor isn't a villain. They're a group of people doing their best to serve, create, solve, and lead, just like you. They have families, dreams, struggles, and values. They wake up every day trying to make an impact. Seeing that truth reminds you that business isn't just about markets, it's about people. And the more we recognize the humanity in each other, the more ethical, sustainable, and meaningful our businesses become. There's also a deeper level to this. If your mission is truly to serve, truly to solve problems and make people's lives better, then your competitor succeeding is not your loss. It's a win for the mission. If their innovation helps more people, if their service raises the standard, if their vision shifts the culture in a positive direction, we all benefit. Your impact is not diminished by their success. It's amplified by a rising tide of excellence. Leaders who embrace this mindset don't just win in business. They earn loyalty. They attract better people. They create cultures of openness, resilience, and progress. They build movements, not just companies. Because they're not afraid of competition, they're inspired by it. They don't need others to fail in order to thrive. Their success is rooted in contribution, not comparison. So next time you look at your competitor, ask yourself not, how do I beat them? But what are they showing me about where I can grow? What strengths do they have that you respect? What moves are they making that challenge you? What would happen if you reached out? Not to attack, but to understand. When you change the way you see the people you're competing with, you change the game entirely. You stop playing to win a battle and start building something that lasts. In business, most people are playing what Simon Sinek calls the finite game. They're chasing quarterly results, trying to beat their competitors, comparing metrics and looking for fast wins. The finite game has clear rules, defined players, and a set endpoint like a football match. There's a winner and a loser. But business isn't like that. Business is an infinite game, and when you play it like it's finite, you lose sight of what actually matters. In the infinite game, there is no end. The objective isn't to win, it's to stay in the game, to keep playing, to keep building, adapting, and improving over time. Companies that last aren't those that constantly beat the competition. They're the ones that play with a different mindset. They focus on purpose. They focus on people. They focus on playing better, not just playing to win. The finite mindset leads to short-term decisions. It causes leaders to cut corners, sacrifice values, and chase vanity metrics that look good on a spreadsheet, but hollow out the soul of the organization. It encourages rivalry that's toxic, not inspiring. When you're only trying to outdo someone else, you stop innovating from within. You stop listening to your customers. You make decisions based on fear of losing, fear of falling behind, fear of looking weak. But fear is a terrible compass. It will lead you to build fragile things. In contrast, the infinite mindset is rooted in vision and endurance. It asks, why are we doing this? What kind of legacy are we building? How do we keep getting better regardless of what anyone else is doing? This mindset gives businesses the space to focus on the long game. It invites curiosity, collaboration, humility, and trust. Infinite players understand that the only true competitor is who they were yesterday, and the only scoreboard that matters is aligned with their values, their mission, and their people. When you adopt the infinite mindset, your competitors stop being threats and start being teachers. You realize that their success doesn't take anything away from you. In fact, it might push you to raise your own standards. And that's the point, not to win against someone else, but to play with integrity, to serve your customers better, to grow your team, and to build something worth believing in. Infinite-minded leaders focus on sustainability. They understand that it's not about the next campaign, it's about building trust over time. They don't cut corners for the sake of hitting a quarterly number. They make decisions that may cost more in the short term, but create loyalty, innovation, and growth in the long run. This is why some companies thrive for generations, while others flame out after a few years of chasing trophies. It's the difference between chasing a title and creating an impact. Between trying to look successful and actually being successful, the infinite game asks you to commit not to an outcome, but to a cause. And that commitment changes the way you hire, the way you market, the way you serve. It changes the culture inside your organization. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. The infinite mindset gives them that. And here's the best part. When you play the infinite game, you become a magnet for the right kind of people. Employees who care, customers who trust, partners who share your values. You're not constantly scrambling to outdo someone else because you've built a foundation that stands on its own. You're not trying to win by comparison. You're trying to lead with intention. The real success in business doesn't come from winning the game. It comes from changing the game. From playing in a way that lifts everyone, not just yourself. That's the power of the infinite mindset. It turns business into a force for good, not just for gain. One of the most powerful things you can do in business is reframe how you view the people who challenge you. It's easy to get defensive. It's easy to feel threatened by someone doing things differently, by someone gaining traction in your space, by someone who seems to be steps ahead. But what if, instead of resisting those people, you leaned in? What if the competitors who challenge you are actually the ones who can teach you the most? Most of us were raised in a system that taught us to compare grades, awards, salaries, status. That same mindset shows up in business. We compare our growth to someone else's. We measure success by who's getting more likes, more sales, more press. But competition Real, meaningful competition isn't about beating someone else, it's about becoming better because of someone else. And that's a shift that changes everything. When another business challenges you, it reveals areas where you may have grown complacent. It puts pressure on your systems, your brand, your mission. And that pressure is not a bad thing, it's a signal, a call to rise. And those signals, if you're paying attention, are some of your most valuable feedback. See, expose where you've fallen into routine, where your message is getting stale, or where your customer experience needs work. Instead of reacting with insecurity or judgment, ask yourself, what are they doing right? Not to copy them, but to learn. Maybe they've found a more efficient process. Maybe they communicate more clearly. Maybe they understand their audience in a way you haven't quite nailed yet. That insight isn't a threat to your identity, it's fuel for your growth. It takes humility to learn from someone you once saw as a rival, but that's exactly what leaders do. They look beyond the ego. They recognize that every person and every company that challenges them is an opportunity to reflect, refine, and reimagine what's possible. That's how you evolve, not by proving others wrong, but by staying curious about what they might be doing right. Some of the most respected companies in the world didn't rise to the top by ignoring competition. They rose by observing it closely, identifying what worked, and then doing it better through the lens of their own values and vision. That's not stealing, that's leadership. That's innovation. It's the difference between mimicry and mastery. In fact, if you only surround yourself with people who agree with you, who do business the same way as you, who never push back or provoke new thinking, you're not growing, you're coasting. And coasting doesn't lead to excellence, it leads to stagnation. Excellence lives at the edge of discomfort. It thrives in tension. It's forged in the fire of being stretched and challenged. And often your competitors are the ones bringing that fire. There's also something beautiful about respect among competitors. When you stop looking at someone as the enemy, you start seeing them as a peer, a fellow leader, someone who's in the arena with you. You realize you're not alone. You're not the only one navigating the weight of decisions, the highs and lows of growth, the pressure to serve and succeed. That recognition builds empathy, and empathy builds trust. Not just inside your business, but across the entire ecosystem you operate in. In some cases, it might even open the door to collaboration. Two companies once seen as rivals finding common ground, combining strength and serving in ways that neither could on their own. There's a common trap in business, the race to be first. First to launch, first to market, first to trend. But the truth is, being first doesn't always mean being best. In fact, in many cases, the ones who last, the ones who lead, the ones who make a real impact are not the ones who got there first. They're the ones who got there with clarity, with intention, and with a commitment to being better, not just faster. When speaking about companies that were first in their industries, many of them are no longer around, being first might get you attention, but it doesn't guarantee trust. It doesn't guarantee loyalty, and it doesn't guarantee relevance over time. The companies that earn those things focus relentlessly on quality, consistency, and meaning. They listen, they adapt, they grow. They're not obsessed with the spotlight. They're obsessed with serving well. When you're chasing the title of first, your decisions often become reactive. You move fast, but not always smart. You make choices based on urgency, not alignment. You sacrifice depth for speed. And in doing so, you might miss what actually matters, creating something of real value, something that lasts, something people can believe in. But when your focus is on being better, better for your customers, better for your team, better for your community, you build from a different foundation. You ask better questions. You invest more deeply. You innovate with purpose, not pressure. And you create something that isn't just new, but meaningful. And it means being willing to wait for the right moment instead of rushing for the first one. Simon Sinek talks often about the importance of starting with why, and this is where being better starts with your why, not your timeline, not your competitors, your why. Why do you exist? What are you trying to build? Who are you trying to serve? The answers to those questions give you direction, clarity, and strength. They root you in something deeper than the race to be first. They give you the freedom to be intentional. And here's the thing, customers can tell the difference. They know when something has been thrown together to beat the clock. And they know when something has been crafted with care. They feel it. And that feeling builds trust, and trust builds businesses. No one becomes loyal to a brand because it was first. They become loyal because it made their lives better, because it showed up consistently, because it stood for something. Focusing on being better also shifts your mindset from competition to contribution. It's not about outpacing someone else. It's about outserving them. It's about showing up with empathy, creativity, and courage, and letting those values guide your decisions. That kind of leadership is rare. And that kind of leadership is what sets businesses apart, not just in the moment, but over time. So while everyone else is sprinting to be first, take a breath. Take the time to build something excellent. Take the time to ask hard questions and refine your answers. Take the time to create with intention, not just momentum. Because first fades, but better endures. Better is what people remember. Better is what people talk about. Better is what builds the kind of legacy that doesn't just launch, but lasts. We often inherit definitions of success without questioning where they came from. In business, winning tends to look like market dominance, massive revenue, scaling fast, or having more followers, more sales, more recognition. But what if that definition of winning is flawed? What if chasing those markers is exactly what causes so many leaders in companies to burn out, compromise their values, or lose sight of why they started in the first place? Simon Sinek's philosophy encourages us to redefine what it means to win in business, not by outdoing others, but by outdoing ourselves. Real winning isn't about crushing the competition. It's about staying in the game and playing it better every single day. It's about building something that lasts, something that matters, something people actually trust. When you define winning as beating others, you immediately create a zero-sum mindset. There's a winner and there's a loser. That leads to short-term decisions, cutting corners, ignoring ethics, sacrificing culture for quick gains. You're always chasing, always reacting, always playing defense. And the problem with that is it never ends. Even when you win, the goalposts move. Someone else gets bigger, faster, better, so you chase harder. And that cycle exhausts your team, confuses your customers, and distracts you from your purpose. But when you redefine winning as playing the infinite game, as staying in alignment with your mission, serving your audience consistently and evolving with intention, you shift your mindset. You stop looking sideways and start looking inward. You begin to measure progress differently. Instead of asking, are we better than them? You ask, are we better than yesterday? Are we closer to our vision? Are we making a meaningful impact? That subtle shift in thinking changes everything. Your competitors become benchmarks, not enemies. Challenges become opportunities to grow, not reasons to panic. You're no longer obsessed with short-term wins because your eyes are on the long-term impact. That kind of thinking creates resilient teams, enduring brands, and a culture people actually want to be part of. It also allows you to lead with integrity. You stop compromising just to stay ahead. You make values-driven decisions because you know success isn't measured in quarterly reports alone. It's measured in how well you live out your mission. This is where trust is built, not through slogans, but through consistency, through walking the talk, through playing the long game. And here's the irony. Companies and leaders who adopt this mindset, the ones not obsessed with winning in the traditional sense, often end up outperforming everyone else over time. Why? Because people are drawn to authenticity, to consistency, to leadership that stands for something real. In a noisy world, trust is a competitive advantage. And trust is earned through values, not velocity. So redefining winning doesn't mean abandoning ambition. It means aligning your ambition with your values. It means striving to lead with purpose, to grow responsibly, and to measure your success by the lives you impact, not just the metrics you hit. It's a longer road, it's not always glamorous, but it's worth it. Because the businesses that last, the leaders who inspire, the teams that thrive, those aren't built on beating others. They're built on a relentless commitment to being better, to growing smarter, and to doing it all with integrity. That's what real winning looks like. It's not loud, but it's lasting. It's not about being first, it's about being faithful to your vision, your people, and the reason you started in the first place. In business, we're often told to crush the competition, to dominate, to outperform, to win at all costs. But that mindset can be toxic. It can blind you to one of the most important truths about your competitors. They aren't your enemy, they're your mirror. They reflect back to you your strengths, your weaknesses, your blind spots, and your potential. And if you pay attention, they can help you grow in ways you never imagined. When you look at someone in your space who's doing well, maybe they're attracting more attention, scaling faster, or innovating in ways you haven't. You have a choice. You can let that trigger jealousy or insecurity, or you can let it spark reflection. What are they doing that resonates? What are they communicating that's landing with people? What needs are they meeting that you're overlooking? That competitor might not have a better product, but maybe they've tapped into a story that people believe in. Maybe they've created an experience that feels more personal. Maybe they've mastered something you've been avoiding. And recognizing that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're learning, you're paying attention, you're evolving. Sinek reminds us that leadership isn't about being the loudest or the strongest. It's about being the most authentic, the most consistent, the most values driven. And the same applies to business. When a competitor pushes you, it's not always because they're better. It's because they're highlighting where you have room to level up. In that sense, competitors are mirrors. They show you how you're perceived. They show you where you're excelling and where you're coasting. They reflect back how well you're executing your mission or how far you've drifted from it. And while it's tempting to dismiss them, to downplay their wins, or to focus on beating them, the real move, the smart move, is to get curious, to listen, to learn, to let their success sharpen your vision, not threaten it. This mindset shift takes emotional intelligence, it takes self-awareness, it takes humility, but it's a game changer. Because once you stop seeing your competitor as a threat, you open up space for collaboration, innovation, and long-term impact. You realize that there's room for everyone, especially those who are doing good work with integrity. And here's the truth. Your competitor is probably facing the same challenges you are. They're figuring things out, trying to serve, trying to grow. They have bad days, they make mistakes, they question themselves, just like you. So rather than building walls, build understanding. Rather than assuming bad intent, assume shared struggle. Rather than competing with bitterness, compete with respect. This doesn't mean you don't strive. This doesn't mean you don't push to improve, but it means you do it from a place of clarity, not fear, a place of purpose, not pride. And when you do, you create something different, something grounded, something human, something lasting. The mirror your competitor holds up is powerful. It invites you to ask the hard questions. Are we still aligned with our why? Are we innovating or imitating? Are we leading with vision or reacting from pressure? Those questions, when asked honestly, are the key to sustainable growth. So stop wasting energy trying to outshine others. Use that energy to refine your mission, to deepen your message, to serve more meaningfully. Let your competitors challenge you, but not to be them.
Profit is essential. Of course it is. Businesses need to be financially healthy to sustain themselves, to pay teams, to reinvest in innovation. But profit isn't the purpose. It's a result of doing something valuable, meaningful, and authentic. And when we lose sight of that, when we let profit become the only goal, we risk building companies that look great on the outside, but feel empty on the inside. Sinek often says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. That's not just a marketing line, it's a guiding truth for how you lead, how you build, and how you define success. When your business is driven by something deeper than the bottom line, people can feel it. Your team shows up differently. Your customers stay longer. Your impact goes further. So what does it mean to build a business you're proud of? It means staying aligned with your values, even when it's hard. It means treating people like human beings, not just data points. It means making decisions with integrity, not just strategy. It means building systems and products that serve, not manipulate. It means putting your name on something you actually believe in. That pride shows up in the little things, the way you handle setbacks, the way you respond to criticism, the way you treat your customers and employees when no one's watching. It's in how you hold the line when the easy choice would be to cut corners. It's in how you show up when things get tough, and it's in how you lead, and not just when you're winning, but when you're rebuilding, rethinking, recalibrating. There's a different kind of fulfillment that comes from building something that reflects your character, something that your team feels connected to, something that your customers trust, not just for what it does, but for what it means. That kind of business creates legacy, not just headlines. Legacy that's rooted in people, in service, in impact. And it's okay if that means growing slower. It's okay if you're not chasing the next round of funding or sprinting toward an exit. It's okay if your wins don't look flashy from the outside. What matters is that they're real. What matters is that you're proud to tell your story. What matters is that you're building something you'd want your name and your values attached to, even 10 years from now. So instead of asking, how can I scale faster? Start asking, how can I lead better? Instead of asking, how do I beat them? Ask, how do I stay true to this? Instead of chasing applause, chase alignment. Alignment with your mission. Alignment with your ethics. Alignment with the kind of leader you set out to become. Because at the end of the day, building a business that makes you proud, that reflects your values, your passion, your integrity, isn't just good for your soul. It's also good for your business. It creates loyalty, trust, and longevity. It gives people something to believe in. And in a marketplace filled with noise, that belief is the most powerful differentiator you can have.